blaming in part the hurricanes. Does that make sense at all to you?
Well, look, the hurricane is a real thing. I mean, and
Sure.
you can't dismiss the hurricane. Look, it's not just that some homes were literally wiped off the map, right? Which is a very, very real and tangible impact on subscribers. But it's also, you haven't been able to do installs for a long time, right? You've had to get your techs evacuated and all that sort of thing. So, sure, that affects the numbers. That's not what people were alarmed by today. What people were alarmed by was this is the first real acknowledgement that the business model itself is under real stress, right? That the video business model is starting to respond to the fact that YouTube TV launched 14 new markets this quarter, that DirecTV Now is back to giving away free Apple TVs for a subscription that sells at $2 above programming cost. And fundamentally, the business model is changing, and the video piece of the business just isn't going to be a robust part of the story anymore.
One of the comments that emerged from this conference from Comcast is that new internet streaming entrants are offering packages that are giving them often negative margins, negative gross margins.
It's a terrible
so who wins
business.
That race? To the bottom in terms of costs?
Well, arguably, I mean, I guess there's always, you can always lose more money, but they've already raced to zero margins. They started at zero margins. So when DirecTV Now introduced it, or AT&T introduced its first DirecTV Now package, our calculation at the time was that the gross margin on that product was about $1 and the net margin was about a -3. That compares to a satellite TV customer that made $65 margins, right? This is the old comment that goes way back to of digital pennies trying to replace analog dollars. The math don't work, right?
So what happens? Does this force Comcast's hand to do some sort of deal?
Well, no. I mean, so step back for a second. Okay. Comcast is primarily on the video side of on the distribution, the pipe side of the business, primarily a broadband company, not a media company. And I've been saying on your show for 15 years, the cable companies are not media companies, they're infrastructure providers. When we downgraded these companies, it wasn't because we said, look, video subs are going to go negative. I'm not entirely sure the market is going to care. We found out today the market really does care. So in some ways, I'm surprised people were surprised, but you needed to find out, does the market care? But
Craig, if the market does care or doesn't care, when you look at I look at it as a zero-sum game. So when you brought it up, broadband, how much are they going to compensate in a world where everything is streaming?
That
has to grow.
The answer is right, and the answer is they're going to be fine because they can charge more, and they've got pricing power in broadband. When we downgraded the stocks, it wasn't because they weren't going to make their numbers. We said, look, they're going to lose video subscribers, and therefore they will have to raise broadband prices faster. And our expectation is the market will ultimately put a somewhat lower multiple on stocks that are exercising pricing power than stocks that are growing units. That's all it is. It's not a calamity. They're still going to make their numbers. Right. But you're likely to see some revaluation and a lower multiple.
So down 6.25%. Have we seen, how much of the re-rating have we seen?
It's not going to happen in one day, right? Sure. I mean, it's going to take time for the market to digest this. But in fact, when we downgraded the stocks, what we said at the time was it'll be attractive to get back in once the market has fully digested an expectation that video isn't going to grow anymore and that it's actually going to shrink. Once that's in the stocks and you know that the market has appropriately priced it, I think you want to own Comcast again. It's a little too early to think that after 4 hours of market digestion that it's fully done. But eventually it'll be fully done.
But what's your view of what that re-rating should be?
Modest, right? It's a little complicated, but a number of things happen as you shift from video to broadband. Margins go up, that warrants higher multiples. Capital intensity goes down, that also warrants higher multiples. Growth rates and terminal growth rates come down, and that warrants lower multiples. And the net is that you probably warrant about a quarter of a turn lower multiple. It's not dramatic. It's a modest impact on the business. But again, the reason these are such good businesses is they have pricing power, right? The only issue, and again, it is an important one because it raises all kinds of regulatory concerns and that sort of thing, is businesses that have latent pricing power tend to trade at higher multiples than people that are using their pricing power. You'd rather have it in your hip pocket and not have to use it.